Hi, Mikko here. So we're gonna answer the big question. Is Fai currently the best ninja in Flesh and Blood now that is out of the format? Well, we shall see. So what Fai does best, again, compared to other ninjas like Aira and Sidra, is that he is very good against Florian and Verdance. And these two decks are, of course, expected to rise now that Enigma and Zen are both out of the picture. So as the format gets slower and the power of the good decks in the format goes towards more in the end game, they are a lot more vulnerable to like being pressured early in the game, which is what Fai does best. So as opposed to Syndra, who does like a constant stream of damage per game, trying to get the mass trigger off, what Fai does is he does roughly the same thing, wherein you also constantly pressure the opponent with a fixed amount of damage, but instead of trying to trigger massive momentum, you will try to burst them down towards the end with massive tampons and links. With this in play, it's like you are saying that your opponent starts with 5 less health because this is used to usually search for a lava burst or a salt the wound or a tenacity, which are like your big finishers. So something along the lines of like hitting them a lot and then finishing off with a salt the wound, getting a mass trigger, giving it go again, and then hitting for another 7 is very backbreaking for some of the decks. That also makes him great for aggro decks. So he actually has somewhat of a better time against Aurora compared to Syndra, because you can slow down the game if you want because he has a lot of blocking cards. You can pack AB1 if you want, but I don't really recommend it. But of course, the better strategy is to try to just burst her down before she gets her CLB off. Now, what you might notice is that when Fai is fighting against other aggressive decks, is that his damage will be a little bit on the lower side compared to the other better aggressive decks nowadays. But remember, you just have to lull them into a false sense of security before you pop the pouncing links and then kill them from like 18-ish life, or at least get the tempo from there. If they somehow manage to survive that, hopefully the tempo is still yours, and then that's where Fai will take over. Okay, so the list that I bought to Procast last weekend is very similar to some Dando's list. So you might want to check his video for a more
Link down below.
Yes, link down below. You may want to check out his video at MinMax Games for a more in-depth discussion of each of the cards. So what I'm going to do instead is try to add up that conversation by talking about which cards were my favorite during my PQ run. First off, I want to talk about these guys. This is Spreading Flame, and even better yet, you overlap them with Rake Over the Coals. So this is your Art of War at home. Sadly, Art of War is not legal now in Classic Constructed. We're very sad, but this is its replacement, and it's not too bad. Just Spreading Flames by itself can lead to huge value, especially if you can make a long combat chain, and that's very easy when you count in Phoenix Flames plus all of the new draconic cards that have been released. There's some matches, like for example in Victor, where you really have to try to find them together, try to overlap them, and probably get the additional draw off of this. So that's how we beat Guardian. For most of the decks, it's just trying to get in as much damage as possible with these cards. Before I move on with the rest of the deck tech, be sure to subscribe. It helps us a lot, helps grow our channel, helps us deliver and deliver more helpful content to you guys. As for the rest of the list, there are a couple of other cards that I want to talk about. First is this one, Blood Drop. So Blood Drop is a nice change that was recommended to me by one of our local players. I think it was Jason Visconde. So he told this used to be Compounding Anger, but in testing I noticed that it's a little bit clunkier than I wanted to, and he pointed out to try Blood Drop instead. Now, what's great about Blood Drop is that it costs 1 and it gets reduced by 1. But the icing on the cake here is that it has a natural go again. So in an emergency, it can act as a starter for your line, for your draconic line. Also, it blocks for 3, and since it's 2 power, you can use it to increase the Spreading Flame damage. The other thing that I'd like to talk about is that since 2 Mystics are now going out of the rotation in Classic Constructed, we now have space to remove the additional Phoenix Flame and the Flame Call Awakenings. So this makes us a lot more susceptible in the new matchup, but personally, I'd rather not overthink it and then you just if she has it, she has it, and just play out the rest of the match the same way, rather than trying to like put in 3 more cards just to try to shore up that matchup. Finally, from what I've noticed, I didn't really make much use of Warmonger's Diplomacy in the last meta. I think in the meta next week, that also won't be the case. You can probably replace it with something else. I guess the best thing that I've changed in terms of the deck's numbers is to just put 2 out of loyalties. You already have a lot of starters from the new draconic abilities, so these are just icing on the cake for Fai. For Syndra, you probably need 3 of them, but for Fai, he is okay with 2. And this is because you don't really have a lot of filthy generators. Like, the best you can do is try to convert Tenacity or Assault the One with a Brand with Cinder Claw so that you can play it on an Oath turn. So this can lead to clunky hands, but I think 2 is the right number. Dragon Power was also great during the weekend, but I'd rather just have it in as 2 copies. I'd prefer just the reliable block and the draconic traits of Cinder Skin Devotion. So it's just a small number switch, but it might help you in deck building. I think 14 blues is the way to go for Fai, especially now that the Jarl is probably making his way back to the format again as the Guardian to beat. The rest of the sideboard, I put in Tunic for the slower matches. This were great against Enigma. This would be great also against Florian and against Verdance in the new meta. So if you are fighting a slower match that doesn't need much blocking, then Tunic is great. And Tide Flippers if you need that AB1. So general strategy is that you try to create your long draconic chain links that's buffed by either Spreading Flame or Rake Over the Coals. You try to optimize as much damage as possible. And then if you really need to block, well, you just need to do 1 or 2 crucial blocks in the game. And then as for the rest, you just try to pop off your big links turn and then try to kill them from there. So there's a lot of quick games when it comes to Fai, but there's also a lot of crucial decisions to be made, especially in blocking. And yeah, a little bit more reps and matchup knowledge will go a long way. Okay, so that's it for the Fai deck tech. I hope you give it a try during your Pro Quest season next week and in the following weeks. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and yeah, keep following our page for more updates and more deck techs. Thank you and good luck.